Welcome everyone to the educational panel on rebuilding and recovery after the hurricanes of Milton and Helene. My name is Shirley Jump. I'm the moderator. I'm just here for decoration on the end to ask them the questions. And all of these great people here are here to help you understand the key aspects of your journey back to a safe, secure, and resilient home, which I know that a lot of you have gone through a lot, as have several of the people that are on this panel. A special thanks to JudyCurry, Realtor and homeowner affected by the storms, and Tommy Whitehead, licensed contractor and owner of Tomco Solutions, for organizing this event. So we're going to ask each of them questions in the order in which you would naturally progress through this whole process, okay? So you guys can see exactly how it works. And can everybody hear in the back? Am I loud enough?
Yeah, we can turn
There's
it
an
up.
echo.
There's an echo.
There's an echo.
Try now, Shirley.
Can everybody hear us in the back? Yeah, is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, good. Bradley Roach is a licensed public adjuster, and for homeowners beginning the claims process, what are the essential steps they should take right after a hurricane, and what common mistakes should they avoid?
Yeah, so as soon as you have any kind of loss that might be covered by your insurance policies, is to document everything. You do want to open up a claim right away. It certainly does help to talk to somebody who is on your side about the coverages that you have. Like I actually was speaking to people right before this panel opened where they didn't actually realize that the National Flood Policy carried an extra $30,000 of coverage for raising your home, elevating your home, or demoing the property and moving. So speaking to somebody who can actually explain your coverages could be very valuable in how you want to proceed.
So what advice do you have then for homeowners who are working with insurance adjusters to maximize their claims? Are there certain words they should use or phrases they should put into their claim to make that happen faster and more efficiently?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say there's no magic words that you're going to be able to say that can create coverage where it does not exist. The best thing that you can do, though, is not jump to conclusions. Unless you are a licensed plumber or a licensed professional and whatever you're trying to identify, if you have an area of concern or damage that you're noting, just say that. Say, I'm concerned about this. I noticed that. And point these out to your adjuster during the inspection. You should never just let these people go out on their own and walk around your property by themselves, because you know your property better than we do. You're going to notice a small little crack that wasn't there before that you may want us to address and at least and analyze as far as your claim goes.
What if they have more than one claim, like maybe a business and a home, or their car and their home, and all of those different things that they could have happen?
Yeah, so that could be incredibly specific to your policy and your damages. The big thing that a lot of people are going to be going through now are going to be homeowners damages, where generally it's going to be like wind, any kind of roof damage, falling objects on your home. But you might also have a flood policy that might cover a portion of those damages as well. And so what can oftentimes happen is you'll have one insurance company trying to point the finger at the other, and the other doing the other thing. So again, that's kind of where I can help step in as well with helping draw a line in the sand.
And that leads right into why people should hire a public adjuster, how they find one and all of that, instead of just going through the adjuster with their insurance company.
Yeah, and so for those of you who don't know what a public adjuster is I'm licensed essentially to represent homeowners and their best interest. I do not work for insurance companies. I work specifically for homeowners. And it's really my job to be educated in an area where a lot of people just don't know. Like again, that flood, that extra coverage for your flood insurance, if you have the national program, is a coverage that a lot of people either don't know about or are not going to take advantage of, especially if you are planning on raising or elevating your home. The other thing as well is we're very in line with just the options that exist for you. So I was talking to somebody else here tonight where your homeowner's insurance may actually be on the hook if you are raising your property. If you have homeowner's damages, there are certain thresholds where if we present the claim in the right fashion, we can go after the full value of your entire policy. That's very person specific. I'm happy to talk to people about it, but it is going to be very specific.
Which leads us right into Greg Curl. You see, pass the mic down. He is a house lifting specialist with Davey Shoring. So Greg, how does it work to lift a house? What are the first steps the homeowners need to take, and how long does it take to lift a house?
Well, it starts out that we come out, we do a quote for the house, make sure the house is liftable. Once we do that, and you guys figure out that's what you want to do, the process starts where we do engineering on the property itself to lift the house. We have all our own engineers, we have our own permitting team. It takes about 10 weeks to do the engineer drawings right now. Right now, it's roughly about 2 months on permitting. They're saying it's gonna get quicker. We'll see what happens. For us to lift a house around 2,000 square foot, we're 2 months from the time we put a shovel in, 2.5 months from the time we put a shovel in the ground till the time we're done. Now, the steps that the homeowner needs to take, we don't do any electrical, plumbing, HVAC disconnect, reconnect. We don't put the steps and decks on. We do have that on our engineer drawings because we have to show egress on the house for the county when we apply for the permit. Certain things you guys are gonna have to have as far as permitting goes is elevation certificate and an survey of the property. Now, different municipalities require different things. Some require a drainage field, some requires impervious surface on their topographical, on their surveys. We'll let you know that depending on where you're at in your houses. So the next step comes in when we get ready, when we get the permit, we come in. We only, 3 feet around the house, 3 to 4 feet around the house is all we disturb on the ground. They go in, they dig underneath the house. Once we dig underneath the house, we get under the footer. We start pushing Permalock, our patented system, into the ground. This happens every 4 feet around the outside of the footer, underneath the footer, and we dig tunnels through the house and put them underneath the house. What happens is we push these columns down to we either get to bedrock or we get to refuse, which is about 14-ton machine. At that point, the house starts to come up. Once we get all those on jacks, that's how we start lifting the house. Once the house gets up to about 4 feet, we stop, we come back, and we pour a brand new footer and encapsulate every one of those columns that we put in the ground. Now what that does is now that foundation is sitting on every one of those columns. We'll have about 40 columns that are around the house and through the center when we're done with that. Once that stage is done and that dries, we come back and we lift the house up to elevation height. We come back and we put the columns in where the engineer specified we had to have columns on the drawings. Once that's done, they come in and they put all the steel under there to support the slab and to support the footer, and that's it. Once we get that done, you guys are free to put your steps and decks and reconnect your plumbing, HVAC, and electrical.
So your quote.
We'll do questions at the end. We'll do questions at the end. Sorry. What kind of structural considerations should homeowners keep in mind when they decide to elevate their homes? Are there any specific features that make it harder or easier for you?
No, we do homes from anywhere from beginning of 1900s till now. I mean, every house is specific, but we have things that we do for each specific house to make sure it gets lifted without damage.
And what about financial or insurance benefits towards lifting a home versus just doing a traditional rebuild?
When you lift your house, you don't have any taxes that are gonna go up when you lift your house. You're not changing the footprint of your house, it's just going up. So when you go and lift your house, your tax base doesn't change on your house. Second thing, depending on your insurance company, once you put your house to elevation, you won't have to carry flood insurance anymore. Just depends on your insurance company. Some make you carry a rider policy for so many dollars in content, but other than that, you shouldn't have to carry flood insurance once you're to elevation.
Now you said you guys don't do the HVAC and the plumbing and the electrical, so after you lift it, what does the homeowner do after that to get access and connection to utilities?
They have to have a GC that comes in and hooks up their plumbing, electrical, and HVAC. They do your steps and decks. Now, when we do our engineer drawings, we have the steps and decks, and if you want to pour a slab underneath, we'll put that on the engineer drawings, and if you want to do walls, we'll put that in the engineer drawings. The GC after that can take over that permit. It's already on the permit, it's already engineered. So they just take that over, they finish those steps and close the permit out.
Which is perfect for moving right on to Tommy Whitehead, the licensed contractor, GC at Tomco Solutions. On knockdown, rebuild, and the FEMA 50 rule. So Tommy, when is a full knockdown and rebuild more beneficial than trying to repair existing structures? And what should homeowners think about when trying to decide whether to repair or knock it down and rebuild?
Well, I'll give an example. I had a client call me, 750 square foot wood frame house from the 1950s that had additions on it. And they're like, maybe and we're pretty sure that there's structural damage from termites that we never repaired. So if you go to start lifting one of those houses, it could collapse. And that's where he's doing his assessment and looking to make sure, no, you don't want to do that. If you are just unhappy with the footprint of your house, if you always hated the layout, the rooms, or what's there, it might be a decision that you decide, hey, maybe I do want to take that opportunity to rebuild. Or if you want to increase the square footage or size of your house, that might be more advantageous for you to do a knockdown and rebuild. But we work in tandem with somebody like Greg here to try to figure out what meets your needs the best. If you want to completely bring it up with hurricane windows and straps and upgraded electrical and generators and a whole bunch of other stuff, it could make a lot more sense to knock down and rebuild. If you're pretty happy with your house, just the way it is, and you just want to get it back to livable condition and get it lifted up, then we come in after these guys and take care of your egress, your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
So what about the FEMA 50% rule? There's been some misinformation, some misunderstanding. That's a key regulation after major disasters. So how does it actually apply in practice, and how does it affect homeowners who are considering repairing their house?
So that's a question we get all the time. I'm sure you're getting that one too.
Every day.
Every day. Okay, so the FEMA 50 rule is on your appraised value, but on the property appraised value of the structure or dwelling itself. So you can't say, okay, my house could sell for $500,000, I have $250,000. That's not accurate. It's on the appraised value of the structure. And if you have a waterfront lot, many of us know that the value's in the land. So you may have a $500,000 total value, but the structure may only be $100,000, meaning you have $50,000 before you hit that FEMA cap. So as soon as we go to file for a permit to renovate or repair your home, then you're then required to satisfy the FEMA regulations, which involve lifting or knock down and rebuilding and bringing everything up to code. So you want to make sure you contact your property appraiser. Most of the property appraisers are getting live links on their homepage. Hillsborough never had it. They just activated it today. Pinellas County's had it forever. I forgot to check Hernando to see if it was active up here when I was up. But it'll tell you, hey, we appraised your structure at $200,000. Your FEMA repair value is now $100,000. So if you have $50,000 in flood repairs, you're below your level, you're fine. But if you are looking at $110,000 repair, all of a sudden you have to start meeting requirements. That's a case-by-case basis. It's not a general question we can answer just for the audience. It really is going to depend on where you're at in your stage in life, whether you want to keep this house and sell it, flip it, retire. What do you want to do? And sometimes it involves financial decisions, real estate decisions, and sometimes even talking with your financial planners to see what's the best option for you.
And along with that, when people are rebuilding to FEMA standards, what are some of the specific construction practices that increase a home's resilience to future storms? Hopefully we don't have any more that hit here, but just in case.
Yeah, if we want to increase your resiliency, hurricane straps on your trusses directly on the block, that can help your roof from actually lifting up. That is code now on any new structures that are being substantially altered. Impact windows. One thing is it may not be required if you're keeping your same footprint when you lift your house. However, you're now 7 to 10 foot in the air, and if you think it's a pain in the butt to put your shutters on now, what is it going to be when you have to hoist a ladder up 10 foot to hoist the shutters on? So it's a very real concern where you might actually not be required to do some of this stuff, but you got to think about the livability and functionality of the property. Because it may not be flood that gets you next time. You may be high enough and you may not have any issues with flood, but you now have to consider windborne issues. You're now 10 feet in the air, and what happens when something comes smashing into your window and destroying everything inside the house? And so there's other concerns. We go on again. It's a case-by-case basis, but we try to keep a block house solid. I mean, that's the most important thing. I think we see the stick builds that can push over so easy. But if you already have your block house, we get those straps in. We want to get the windows replaced. That's a great thing to do. And then if we need to get into doors or other exterior elements of the house, we'll start reviewing those with you. Especially if we see, we've seen a lot of swollen wooden doors. That makes it a lot more difficult to operate your house when you can't get into it. But again, it's a case-by-case basis on your home.
Okay, so let's get talking about how to pay for all of this, which is Jonathan Howard, mortgage broker at Howard Team Home Loans on financing the repairs. Jonathan, what financing options are available to homeowners specifically for hurricane repairs? Are there special programs or loans available after a disaster, and how do they get to them?
Yeah, well, first off, I think it's awful that we're in this situation. I bought my house in 2018. I had a great homesteaded it. I refinanced during COVID. I got a nice shiny 2.875 interest rate, and life is pretty affordable. And now, son of a gun, I have to either tear down my house and rebuild and maybe get reassessed in taxes. I have to potentially find a loan and get rid of my 2.875. And oh my God, have you seen the rates lately? It's awful. And now it's unaffordable. And I have debt to income ratios because, I don't know if you've seen this before, but before all this hurricane happened, the economy wasn't all that great, and consumer debt was at all-time highs. So it's hard to qualify for some of these renovation programs out there. And it sounds doom and gloom. And because I'm going through this myself, and it's very tough to go through this, but there are programs out there. The first one is the Fannie Mae Home Style Loan. It's a renovation loan that allows you to do structural changes on there. The loan limits on that is the conforming loan limit, which is in the mid 700,000s there. Unfortunately, if you're in the jumbo territory, there's not a lot of great jumbo renovation loans out there. The FHA 203K is a great program. There's two different parts to it. There's a 203K standard, which does not have a renovation limit on there, but you can have one contractor to go through all the different needs of the renovations. The 203K limited, it used to be $35,000. It's now up to $75,000. That just happened to change this year, but you cannot do any structural changes on that. The Fannie Mae Home Style, which is the conventional loan, it does not allow you to tear down and rebuild or go down, and sometimes you have to get special permission to tear down to the studs on that. The 203K allows you to go down to the foundation, which is nice. However, it is capped at the current FHA loan limits, which is like about $498,000, which is the max one. And also, too, FHA, no matter how much equity you have, you will have upfront mortgage insurance and ongoing monthly mortgage insurance, which is a tough pill to swallow sometimes on it. But there are different options. And so because I was going through this personally, I went through a deep dive and I got frustrated that every answer I got led to more questions. And so I went going through, and all of a sudden SBA. The SBA has a disaster recovery for homeowners. Even though I technically own Howard Team Home Loans, I have a corporate overlord, so I'm just basically a W-2 employee, so I'm not technically a business owner. I thought SBA was only for business owners, and it's not. You can have a disaster recovery for homeowners where you can have up to $500,000 in there. Right now, I encourage everybody to go out and apply for SBA. The only thing you're committing to is a credit pull, and so it might hurt your credit score a little bit to have a hard pull on it. But if you get approved for it, you don't have to take out that loan. You can change your mind at the end. And so what I had, my wife and I, we went through it and to see if we will get approved for it, because what's great about it is that if you have a first mortgage and a second mortgage, it will take third position in the lien position on it. And let's just throw out some random numbers. You have a contractor bid for $300,000 to repair your house. And flood insurance is going to give you $150,000. And SBA approved you for that $300,000. Well, it's going to get subtracted from the flood insurance that you're approved for. So you can get a $150,000 SBA loan. But the coolest thing about it is that interest does not accrue for the first year, and no payments are due for the first year. And then you have a 29 years amortized over the remaining. And the interest rates are reminiscent of the COVID days, where it is 2.813% on it, unless you have substantial assets. And so I dubbed that, like, what does substantial mean? A good rule of thumb is $500,000, which is the SBA subject matter expert told me. There's nothing in writing on that magical $500,000 number, but that's what the guy told me. And he seemed like he knew what he was talking about. And if you do have more than $500,000 of liquid assets, then you'd have that 5.625 interest rate on that SBA disaster recovery loan on that. So that's probably the best option out there if you're planning to renovate on it. I should probably tell you, as a business owner, you should get a loan from me. But no, SBA is probably the best one. If you plan on just taking it back there, use the flood insurance money, SBA to bridge the gap, and it's a good program there for the hurricane recovery.
And just to be clear for everybody, you don't have to have a home business or be working at home or anything like that. This is all related to your home.
You can be business. Unemployed, retired, a W-2 employee, part-time. Yeah, it's just there. If your home was destroyed, it goes through it. And so when you go through it right now, you'll get an automated call that says that, I'm sorry, we are out of funds. But when Congress maybe gets back together someday in the future, they can approve that budget. And then it's nice that if you're already approved, you're already in line, and then you can go ahead and get that loan.
So just like what everybody else has been saying, you want to start getting your ducks in a row as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Now, how does that differ if you're going to work with Greg and lift your home versus rebuilding with Tommy? Is there any kind of lending terms we should be aware of?
Yeah, so renovation loans, the Fannie Mae Home Style and the FHA 203K allow for you to do the lifting of the home on that. After speaking, Greg, his prices were a lot more affordable than the guy that I was talking to in Hillsborough County, where the guy in Hillsborough County was talking about 200 to 225 a foot. Like, you might as well just tear down and rebuild then. Greg was talking about 118, 123 a foot, which makes it a little bit more viable on that. The issue comes is equity. And just because, like, let's throw out run numbers, the cost to lift your home is $125,000. It doesn't mean that automatically you're going to get a $125,000 increase in value on your home. So when you do these renovation loans, an appraiser comes out there and says that, hey, we got the plans from Greg. This looks beautiful. Tommy said that they're going to come in afterwards and they're going to reattach all the stuff that needs to be reattached. We got an engineer stamp. Boom, we're cooking now. And they will then appraise that value based off that repairs are done. And then you got to think about that cost based off your current mortgage balance. And as long as you have 95% equity in there, you can do that Fannie Mae Home Style loan to use that in that to renovate. Now, if for some reason, because I really do believe, especially here in Hernando County Beach, if you do raise your homes, that should take you into the upper echelon of the prices here, because now you don't have to deal about flood insurance. You don't have to, like, you start comping out at a different level on that. But I always tell people, whenever real estate transaction, it all comes down to one person's opinion of value, and that's the appraisers on that. And so what's nice is before you get into too much costs with those plans, you can maybe get that appraisal done sooner than later to see if you have enough equity to do it. And what's nice is on the Fannie Mae Home Style, that can also be for both vacation homes and primary residence, and sometimes investment homes. The FHA 203K would have to be a primary residence on that one. So if you're planning on lifting the home, it is possible, but you got to really think about the equity options. If you think about you're going to tear down that house and you're going to rebuild, and that's something that my wife really wants to do, but I really want to keep my mortgage interest rate at 2.875 there. And I was really concerned about taxes, because once you tear down and rebuild, it's like, oh my gosh, that tax bill is going to go up. The Department of Revenue has a disaster form where you can fill out, as long as your home is 30 days uninhabitable, you can tear down and rebuild, and as long as you have within 110% of your original footprint. And after diving deep, and I've gotten conflicting answers, I'm pretty sure it's based off the heated square footage of your home. Because one of the things that my wife and I are talking about is if we tear down and rebuild, the first floor, front to back, side to side, is going to be all garage on that. And then the second floor, maybe add a cool little third floor on that for it, because I have 4 kids under the age of 8. They take up a lot of room. And but I'm so worried about taxes, because if I tear down and rebuild and it gets comped out in a new build, my tax bill is going to be more than my current mortgage payment alone. Not to mention losing my interest rate and having a higher mortgage balance, buying out my current balance, and trying to finance construction on that. But the cool thing about the Save Our Homes Act is that at that 110% of the square footage, your tax bill it's going to stay in that homestead on that 110%. So for me, I have a 2,300 square foot house. I can maybe rebuild to 2,500. But we were going to do an addition starting this month that the plans got scrapped, that we're going to add 1,000 square feet for my brood of kids. And that extra of it, so the first 2,500 square feet-ish, I can keep my current tax bill. Then anything above and beyond that will be taxed at the current rate of the market value. So it's still gonna, my tax bill's still gonna go up, but it's not as dramatic as I once thought it would be on that. It'd be like 33% more on it, which is still way too much in my opinion, but at least it's not absurd on that. And so that's the biggest thing. So like renovating, you should be able to keep your current tax bill. Tearing down and rebuilding, you gotta think about tax bill basics. So the biggest benefit of lifting with Greg is that your taxes should not, am I being recorded here? Should, asterisk, not increase.
Consult with your attorney.
But when you tear down and rebuild, you're definitely going to have to deal with some different tax basis issues on that. And I would just prepare yourself that your taxes will go up if you tear down and rebuild, unless you can stay within that 110% footprint. Same thing with the renovation loans. You're allowed to add on when you go to do it, but you can't take away from your existing foundation. It's one little caveat I forgot to mention.
Now, Jonathan, what should people know about a timeline and requirements for securing the funds? How can they streamline it? Because I know a lot of people have been out of their houses for weeks. How can they make it go faster?
Pray. No, it's just expect delays on that, and it's basically me and my team. We move as fast as our buyers and our contractors move, and then the city has to go in and approve different phases in the constructions on that. So basically, once a milestone is completed, the draw should be released in the renovation loans or the construction loan on there. But also too, if you do any renovations on like the Fannie Mae home style loan, the renovation should not displace the homeowner for longer than 6 months on it. But the best thing that you can do, and I did bring a little cheat sheet, and I realize I'm talking way more about this, and I apologize. But
That's what they want to know, the money though.
the money.
You're
If you
a star.
say that again, feed my ego. If you have a mortgage on your home, the golden rule: he who holds the gold makes the rules. So the servicer is really the person that only matters. I had one of my clients that their servicer will allow them to tear down the house as long as they get a builder risk program. They can keep their current mortgage, their current interest rate. Mine told me no way on that. So it depends. So you really got to talk to your servicer and let them know that you've been damaged and you're going to make some changes. If you have insurance on the home, unfortunately, that flood claim is going to go into John Howard, my wife Paige Howard, and Flagstar in mortgage things. And Daddy Flagstar is going to have to let me know if I can have some of my money on that. And so the option that you have is I'm going to spend all the money that I get from my rights flooding claim, and I can stable my home and get it. I can go, if I decide to do a renovation, I can assign that benefits over to the new mortgage company to do that renovation loans. Or I can say, you know what, pay down my mortgage balance, use all the money from the rights flood insurance to pay it down. And then I'll have a lower balance, and then I can do a renovation or a construction loan, which would be a less balance to get paid off on. But the things that speed it up is that, I know that's the question, is you get in contact with the mortgage servicer, let them know what's going on. Get in touch with the insurance, get the adjuster out there. My adjuster came out 6 weeks ago, haven't heard a peep from him since on that. And then when you get the amount of the claim, you're going to have to go to our buddy over here and say, not enough! We need more money. And that's where the public adjuster can come in and help you there. And then start getting quotes from contractors. So I always go to these contractors, I'm being recorded, just kidding, is I ask the contractor, can you give me a quote for insurance and give me a quote of what it's really going to cost here? Because I'm trying to get some money from the insurance money and then know what it's going to actually end up costing there. And same thing with timelines. Your budgets are going to also increase more because Helene was such a big storm that the builder I liked out of Tennessee, a lot of his materials are going to the Carolinas now. The Carolinas are also rebuilding. A lot of the coastal Florida is rebuilding. There's a lot of things going on at once, and like the system is over inundated right now. And so just expect some delays, but the things that you can do is getting your ducks a row ahead of time, applying for the SBA, applying for the different grants that are out there, making sure that you have your tax documents in there to get approved with the banks to get the money out. And then if you're going to do an FHA 203K, and if your renovations are going to be more than $50,000 on a home style for Fannie Mae, you got to get a HUD consultant, which is a housing and urban development, and they're going to also review the bids and also approve it. So that's just another layer. So just getting those ducks in a row ahead of time is going to help speed up the process. But just expect delays and expect more money. My wife is not a patient person. It's been 5 weeks. It's been 6 weeks. What are we going to do? We're going to, I can't believe we're living in this mess. This is awful. And I'm like, I am trying, honey. My emails have not been returned. My phone calls have not been returned. I sat on hold and I'm working on it. But it's just one of those things that we're going to get through this together. It's going to take a little bit more time than we expect, but damn it, we're going to get through it.
And just so you guys know that you're all going to get an email with everybody's contact information after this, so I know it's a lot to take in and a lot to try to understand. So we're going to talk to Judy so that you guys can make a nice long-term plan too about whether you're going to sell now or later. She's a licensed realtor. She's the one that put this together, so thank you to Judy for doing that, for bringing all these experts in. When a property undergoes major repairs after a storm, what should homeowners have to disclose when they decide to sell? What do they need to put on the disclosure report?
Okay, that's a great question. And first of all, I'm one of you. So my house got taken out in Adalia 4 weeks before Helene came. It was just renovated and got taken out again. So I am one of you making the same decisions that you are. Even though I'm kind of in this business or lane, you might say, I'm kind of like with John here, you know, having to make the same phone calls, the same decisions. So, but you do on the disclosures, you're not going to get out of that. So it doesn't matter whether it's now or whether it's later. Anytime that you go to sell your house, you're going to have 3 disclosures that you're going to have to fill out. One is a mold disclosure, and it's very specific. And if you got water in your house, you got mold. So you're gonna have to fill that out. Even if you got it up really quick, you still had mold. So you're gonna have to fill that out. You are also going to have to fill out what is a brand new disclosure that we have now called, guess what? A flood disclosure. What timing, huh? And everyone, whether you're in a flood zone or not now, has to fill that out. So they're not just picking on us now. And you have to fill that out. And it's also very specific. Did you make a claim? Did you get any FEMA help? It's very specific, so you have to answer that, and you have to answer that correctly. That's something that can come back on you, and an attorney can come back and get on you. So that is something that you have to be very honest on that. And then we have what we've always had, which is a seller's property disclosure. And if you've ever sold your house before, which most of you have completed that in the state of Florida. And there's all different sections on there, but one is about water intrusion. And you'll get to answer that section as well. So you'll get to answer about any water intrusion, where it came from, how it was repaired. And so you will now have 3 disclosures that when you go to sell your house, that you will be providing upfront to any potential buyer.
So how do those extensive repairs that we've talked about here, like lifting or rebuilding, how do that affect a property's saleability and value? Are there specific improvements that you can put in now to add more value in the long run?
Yeah, I was out today in the community, and I met with some of you and some other people, and going over that. That's kind of the big question. You know, what is it that adds value? What is it that's going to work the best? Obviously, lifting up. Either way, whether you tear down and you build up or you lift up, whichever one is going to work out best for you is going to give you the value in hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so even my financial advisor, my budget advisor, I guess I'll call her, said whatever you can do, if you can do that, if you can squeeze it out, that's what you need to do. So that will help a lot, any which way you can to get it up off the ground. I will tell you from personal experience, building it back on the ground is not going to get you anywhere. I did that in Adalia. I don't know if any of you saw my house. It was very cute. There was a lot put into it. It did not sell. And it wasn't going to sell. And I had people here ask me tonight, well, what about the people up north? Won't they forget? No. I work globally. Today I was working with somebody in Costa Rica. I work with people everywhere. They don't forget either. So really right now, I'm just a gut level honest person. So I'm going to tell you, building it on the ground, we got another realtor here. That's a bad idea. Twice it's happened. So the third time, we've got a few other options. So, they're not comfortable, but building it back for it to come back again, I don't know if you can go through that, but I don't know if I could go through the mental of that, let alone the financial. So really building it up, whichever way you have to do it. The other thing that people are doing, and I was helping them with that today too, is some people are in a situation where just selling it as is works for them. They own the house outright. They've made their money on the house. They don't want to fix it up. They've done remediation. Every house I went into today was good with remediation. Everybody here, that's what's so nice. Everybody here takes care of the property. Nobody left it moldy or anything like that. They took care of it. So I have plenty of investors. I was matching up with people today to buy those properties. And what they're going to do is build them up and sell them, and they're going to be very nice. So we're not talking about people that are coming in here to, trash properties or anything like that. We're talking about people just have deeper pockets. That can come in and pick up something that's, somebody else. I went in one that was a grandpa's today, was a grandpa of a lady. Another one is a lady's father. And then one is a guy that lives here, hit 3 sides water, and he's buying another house here, and he just wants, he don't want to fool with it. His house is gorgeous. And he's like, I don't want to fool with it. Just go in and tell me how much I can get for it, and who can buy it, and, I want to sell it. It's fine. I don't care. So, that's one option too, but it's going to depend on your financial situation. But I guess the thing I want to tell people is there are options, but the options are going to be different for different people. And I just believe in working with people individually on what's your best financial option for you, to get you through. I think you do have to get down to the numbers. And I think it takes like a team like this. These are my people. These are amazing people. I will tell you. I've worked with Davy Shoring since Adalia. They came out then, and I have vetted them out since then. But I think you just have to look at your situation. But these houses out here, I don't know. You tell me. But the value of raising them up, and everybody's going to be raising them up. Can you imagine what you already see the sunsets here? Yeah. You know what it's going to look like when you get all these off the ground, or the majority off the ground?
The landscape's changing completely.
It's a whole new world.
Yes.
Are there any other factors people should really keep in mind? Because I'm sure a lot of people are trying to decide between, I love this community, I don't want to leave, but I'm afraid of getting hit again. Like, should I stay? Should I sell? Should I hang out for another 30 years? What kind of factors go into making that decision?
A couple of things I want to say. One before that is some people said they've already started making some repairs. I would say hold off until you know what you're going to do, because you might be undoing some things that may cost you some money. So I haven't done anything. I remediated. I'm a realtor. I haven't done anything yet. I haven't decided until I get my insurance, what money I'm going to pull out, how I'm going to do it. I have some people that have said yes, that they want to leave. Some people really want to stay. So there are things that things that we can go ahead and we can be getting done. The SBA loan. I did an SBA loan last year. Now my property was a rental property. So I did it that way. And then John has told me this year, no, we can go through and just do it as homeowners. And yes, I got the same rate, the same everything. I'm still in my first year of not paying it back without any interest. So that was a good option too. So as far as, if you want to leave, if you want to stay, if you love it here, which a lot of us do, we're not even from here. We're just kind of newer to the community, and we're hoping to retire here. Yeah. We can find a way to make it your home. I really think so. But candidly, and again, I'll do the quotes for the recording. If you want to keep yours on the ground, you're really rolling the dice, as far as if you're going to love staying here again, because then I think that's why a lot of people are running, because they're like, I can't do this again, I can't do it. Some people one time are like, I can't do it again after once. So, just take your mental capacity into it as well. I know I have had to. And just see, but this community is beautiful. It's going to be even more beautiful. So if there's ways that we can help you, if we can sell out your house, we can move you somewhere else. One of the things that Brad has is where you can sell your property and you get $30,000 toward moving to another property. And that's also an option that nobody really knows about, so just wanna throw that out there, and that's, Brad's option. Did I say that right?
Close, yeah. You can, as long as you demo the structure, and there's no more structure on the property, you can get up to $30,000 to go towards those moving costs and the demolition costs, as well as keep your flood insurance money that you already received.
Yeah, I didn't wanna get out of my lane, but I wanted to make sure that you knew, you could talk to him afterwards or questions more with that. But yeah, I just think there are options.
Now, I know you guys have a lot of questions, and we are gonna take questions, but we're hoping that you will do ones that are more general, because everybody that has specific questions, everybody's gonna stay behind, so that you can ask them their specific questions. But if it's just like, my house has this problem and that problem, we don't wanna do that. We wanna help everybody in the room. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I was just wondering, how much does it cost to hire you as a professional?
Yeah, so everything that I do is contingent.
Everything that I do is contingent. So we charge a 10% contingency agreement on the amount of the claim. If you've already received some money, I am not allowed to bill on any money that you have already received.
And in case you missed the question, it was how much does it cost to hire a public adjuster? Anybody else have a question? Yes.
So on the Fannie Mae homestead rehab, is that available for manufactured homes or just single family homes?
Yeah, I'm gonna check. Oh, I got my guideline grid right here.
I don't think it is, that's why I wanna make sure, so I'm gonna let you work.
All right, well, he's looking that up. Let's look at another question. Yes, ma'am.
Judy, you talked about having disclosures with FEMA. Is that only if you get money to rebuild your house, or is that all these little $750 and the other amounts that they're giving you?
The disclosure, it's for everybody. So,
No, is it for disclosing the money that you get from FEMA? Is that just to help build back your home, or is that on these little?
for repairs, it'll ask you if you got money from any other source from repairs.
For repairs only, okay, thank you.
For the emergency funds, that's what she's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, your $750, I think you'd probably be okay with that, and I actually brought them, if you wanna see me afterwards, I brought the 3 forms, exactly what they asked, but they did add to it, what is it, government, and
Yes,
there's a few.
government assistance. They don't care if FEMA did emergency
Yeah.
food and that structural.
It's just more what you got from them and insurance they wanna see.
So so that's clear that it's only the repairs money that you got, not the food money, the $750 you got for emergencies. And Jonathan had an answer to the question about the manufactured home.
Yes, manufactured and modular does qualify for home style, but instead of 95%, it's 85% of the appraised value.
Does it have to meet a certain wind code?
Yeah, so basically, yeah, you gotta make sure that it does meet the codes, like it's gotta be permanently affixed to the foundation, you gotta have the hurricane straps.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Is there an option if you have concrete block structures in the story, that you can use that as a garage and then build on top of it?
The question is there, if you have concrete blocks as your foundation, is there an option to use that as a garage, the beginning of a garage, and all of that is lifting it up?
So, kind of both of us. So yes, you can actually abandon your first level and build up. You can either, depending on each municipality, they have their height codes. You may only be able to go to 30 feet. You might be able to go higher than that. So it could, you could abandon your first floor, use it as garage, and have it your second floor if you already have one. You can potentially add a third floor if you're not restricted to height codes. And you want to add to that?
No, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. So, and that's different than lifting by abandoning your first floor.
Yes, sir.
Listen, you have a foundation problem, you say crack, you know, there's a couple cracks in the house when the washout. Would that be able to safely be lifted up
So-
and elevated?
The question was if you have cracks already in your foundation, and is that gonna affect the lifting of
I'd
the
have to
house?
look at it.
Yeah.
That's a case by case basis.
Compromise, right?
9 times out of 10, we'll be able to put it in there.
Lady in the orange. Yeah, blonde. The
I
blonde.
have a FEMA question. If you, you know, there's all kinds of discussions that if you take money from FEMA, that you have to maintain, flood insurance, and then if you sell it, whoever you sell it to has to maintain flood insurance? Is that a fact? Correct.
Does anybody
That's-
know that?
Yes.
That's the 30,000 ICC money for putting your house in compliance. If you take that $30,000, I'm not totally positive, but everybody I've been talking to say that if you take that 30,000, you have to sign an affidavit saying you'll keep insurance on the flood insurance on the house for as long as you have the house or ever you sell it.
Yeah, I have heard that as well. That might be a little bit better question for an insurance agent who sells insurance. However, what he's referring to is the extra $30,000 that exists under the National Flood Insurance Policy for if you are going to be complying with either floodproofing a basement, floodproofing a commercial property, raising the structure, elevating the structure, or even demoing the structure and moving, that would be applicable. However, even if you do raise your property and you take advantage of that, that is a substantial improvement, and they will re-rate your policy. So it is likely that even though you are less of a risk, I've seen it all the time where your rates will actually increase.
Okay, so for instance, I have a ranch house, okay, I got minimal damage, okay? So FEMA is at me trying to get me to take FEMA money, which, all right.
That should not apply to anything, yeah. That shouldn't affect anything at all.
Okay, because I don't maintain flood insurance, I
Yeah,
saw
no, then that would not be applicable. You're good.
Okay.
Okay, over here.
So I was told by an SBA representative that if you take the loan, the SBA loan, any insurance money that you receive has to be paid to SBA, even if you have an existing mortgage. Is that correct?
So the way if you take the SBA money, so any insurance money is going to reduce the SBA loan that you receive.
So you can't put that towards your mortgage.
So yeah, so let's say you got you're approved for $200,000 with the SBA, you got $80,000 from flood insurance, you now have a $120,000 SBA loan.
Okay, okay.
It just reduces your SBA.
Okay, so the insurance money would still go to my mortgage company.
It's going to your SBA, yep. So which is going to be a lien on your property. If the SBA loan is greater than $50,000, they'll place a lien on your property, and so then that flood insurance. So long story short, yes, it does reduce your mortgage, but really it's reducing the SBA loan.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Oh, you got something.
And just let me add to that. So, and he alluded to this earlier. No matter who your mortgage carrier is, they're going to be named as an additional person on that check. And I've had instances with complete knockdown rebuilds, and they send an advance of $10,000 to destroy the house and do plans. I said no. So the construction professionals sometimes have to get involved and say, hey, no, plans themselves are $20,000 for this. That's not demo and everything else. So regardless of who your mortgage carrier is, it's going to be a process of going through and identifying your repair estimate, hiring a licensed contractor, and having to work with your lender to justify it. There are a lot, I've seen lenders, and maybe you have too, but lenders tend to be more comfortable when a contractor and a signed contract's involved as well. So we try to help you, mitigate that problem, but it's still back and forth.
I actually have two, one on SBA, one on lifting. So for the SBA, does it work as a line of credit, or you have to determine the amount ahead of time when you ask for the specific amount?
The way I understand it is that it is a 30-year fixed loan that you receive with no pre-penalty payments on it, so you can pay it off. No, it's not a line of credit. The money you receive from the SBA loan, the only thing that's really cool about it is the first year, no interest, no payments. Starting in month 13, it's then amortized over the remaining 29 years.
You allow to use it for lifting, right?
I believe it's used for whatever you deem necessary for your repairs.
Yes,
on
it's
it.
for lifting. You can use it.
And for the lifting part, I assume you guys are busy these days. What's the backlog? What do you think?
Right now, we're about 10 months out on engineering, about 2 months on permitting, and about 2.5, 3 months to get them up in the air. We're still in before hurricane season right now. Now, in another month or two, I doubt that.
You said 3 months or 10 weeks?
Weeks.
You meant 10 weeks.
Oh, all right. Hold on. You're 10 weeks in engineering, which is 2.5 months. You're 2.5 months on permitting, you're 4.5 months.
So Greg,
Okay? You're 2.5 months putting it in the air, so now you're 7 months from today. So that still puts you in with the hurricane season. In another month or so, we keep getting busier, as you can imagine. We keep taking more and more on. That's gonna get extended out as it goes.
I actually did call like 2 weeks ago and no one returned my call, so am I just still in line or should I?
You're in line.
you're
Trust
in the queue. You're in the queue.
I have over 200 right now in the queue.
In the queue.
And I can attest to knowing some of these people, they're exceptionally busy and swamped with phone calls. You had a question?
My question is back to the SBA loan that I applied online, so it's a little bit complicated, it's taken a little bit of a process. But when you talked about the two different interest rates, what was the first interest rate if you had assets that were Is it cash assets, cash of 500,000?
So again, I'm recorded. Assets are stated on your application, and
What do they consider?
Repeat his question.
so the question was asked: what was the substantial assets based off the different interest rates
For the SBA.
for the SBA loan? And so the SBA loan subject matter expert that I sat with said that the rule of thumb is about $500,000 of liquid, non-retirement, non-equity things. So if you have a brokerage account, checking, savings, CDs that add up to roughly about $500,000 as a homeowner, and then in their business side of things, $1 million on that. But assets are stated, and I asked him, I said, do you verify assets? Do I have to submit brokerage accounts? He said, no. I'm like, well then, how do you rule out bad actors? He said, basically, you only get caught if someone tells on you on that. And so I'm like, with my luck, I'm going to get told on, and I'm going to go straight to jail. So I would recommend always being truthful.
So cash less than the 500, what was that interest rate?
So it's 2.813 for that under 500 mark. It's called non-credit elsewhere, and then the $500,000 plus is 5625.
And just as a reminder, everybody who registered for this event today will get the contact information for everybody out here. Sir?
So, Greg, I have a bunch of clients ask me about the house lifting. And I lifted a bunch in Jersey after Sandy for like 3 years. So we worked with a different contract. They didn't do what you do with the putting the grade beams in and the helicals and all that. So
We don't do helicals, we do permalock. No
well,
helicals.
either way,
Right,
you
right.
handle the foundation and the
Correct,
pilings.
correct.
So they didn't do that. That's why I had heard some of the quotes that people were getting from you, and I didn't know what you guys included in that. And clients are asking me how long it's gonna take. So if we sign, like say if we called today, we said, oh, here's the check, let's get the ball rolling. What's a realistic time frame?
7 months.
For actually getting about
7 months. Now, that's 7
That's what
months
I'm-
for me.
Right.
Okay? It's another probably month and a half for you to get your steps, your decks, your egress on the house, your air conditioning, your HVAC.
Okay, so being realistic with them, I should tell them 10, 11 months really to get.
Depends on how quick you are at the end, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, great, because I got a bunch of clients asking me, and I went to one of your lifts the other day, just to
Okay.
check it
Yeah,
out.
you see how the project,
Yeah,
you see how it's
yeah,
done,
yeah,
it's different, yeah.
Gentleman in the back with the hat. Right, yes, you, yeah, that.
I have a couple of questions. For the gentleman that raises the houses, how does that affect the pool if we have a pool on a single-story house?
None whatsoever.
So the house can be lifted and the pool can stay there?
Yes, sir.
So we can live during the summertime?
Yes.
The second question is, cost of, can anybody, comment on the cost of demolition and the cost per square foot to rebuild?
Very good question. I don't have any part of the demolition part of it, one of these guys might, I don't.
So that depends on your lot and what we're doing there. So we come through, we have to do geotechnical testing, we have to make sure how far up. It's a little bit more complex process. It could be anywhere from 275 a square foot to 350, 400, 450 a square foot, depending on the type of house, what structure you're doing, what kind of upgrades you want. That's a knockdown and rebuild.
So,
Okay.
okay. So
Knock down and rebuild.
$250,000 to $307,000 to knock down and rebuild?
Depending on your structure, what you're trying to do and accomplish, and yeah.
So if everybody wants to keep the same footprint and just, they want to, knock down and rebuild higher, because most of our lots are probably 5, 6, 7,000 square foot lots. So let's take an average of 7,000 square foot, you've got X amount of setbacks and stuff like that. So you have, probably maybe a 1,500 to 2,000 square foot home that you can build on that. So the cost to rebuild per square foot would be, as you commented, the cost of demolition. We don't know.
Cost of demolition, depending on the size of the house, between 20 and 30,000.
Okay, so how about rebuilding using your current structure and rebuilding with a frame for the second story?
That's a case by case basis. We have to have structural engineers. We have to have an architect take a look. We have to come up with draft plans. So it's really evaluate each situation specifically.
Off the top of your head, I've seen comments where people will build a frame from the first story to the second story, which all still homes here are wood frame on the second story anyway. So, that cost is excessive.
It is excessive when you're doing build-ups, so it's not always right for everyone.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. Some people have attachment to their home. It could be historic value, it could be mementos. They really want to keep that second level intact and build out. But it does, because when you're trying to augment something that's already existing, we don't know what that was poured to. What code was that? We don't know if the footers there are substantial enough to support having another level added on. So we have to go in, we have to do investigation, we have to get structural engineering. Structural engineers can be very far behind right now because everybody's, they're in demand. And so we haven't come across a situation where we're really fine adding that, abandoning and going up another level is the most practical. But again, it's a case-by-case basis. I wish I could give you a Walmart price, but you can't just buy a house off and put it on your lot like a mobile home, where you know that mobile home's $85,000. This is very different for every job site.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
This kind of gets to the 50% rule. I'm familiar with 2 people now that have gotten offers from their insurance company. The offers far exceed the actual cost that they are having to rebuild or reconstruct their homes. And on top of that, these offers now take them above the 50% rule. Is there anything that can be done to handle that?
So your insurance company's offer that they're giving you initially, and that's never going to be a settlement offer initially. That first check they give you, you're A-okay to cash it. You're not agreeing to anything at all. And I've been asked this question a lot. There is no communication between your insurance company and your local municipality that's going to be handling the FEMA 50 rule. So if you've gotten $150,000 from your insurance company and your thing's only $100,000, well, you got $150,000 and, plan your next steps.
So who determines then what the actual cost is? What I spent or what they gave me?
So this is going to be a permitting question, but it's my understanding that it's off of your permit price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, again, so I'm going through this in Hillsborough County, and I tried calling the property appraiser, and then they referred me to the building person, and they were closed. They closed at 3:30 here in Orlando. In case you didn't know that. But in Hillsborough County, they have $64.85 a foot is how they contract, how they base off that 50% rule. So when I was supposed to break ground on an addition, and so it was going to be a 1,100 square foot addition. They said that it's going to be $72,000 according to the FEMA rule on that. I was building a garage and 2 bedrooms above it. The cost that my contractor was charging me was way more than $72,000 on that. But I was compliant with the FEMA 50% rule because of the permit on there that said that my cost was $72,000 based off the cost per square foot that the county gave. I do not know what the Hernando County number is. I was hoping to have that, but I called since Thursday, and I don't know. Hernando County property appraisers people are very nice, but they don't have the answer.
They're very easy to deal with.
Question in the back there, sir?
Yeah, I'm one of the very few that have a boathouse on my property, and of course my house was devastated, but I'm looking at potentially raising the house or destroying it or rebuilding it. But what I'm grandfathered, as you may want to call it, grandfathered for my boathouse. If I were to do that, would the boathouse be able to stay? Because that boathouse is my 3rd bedroom, 3rd bath.
So we're talking about a detached structure, right?
It's a single roof from the garage over the patio to the boathouse, which allows me to make it a 3rd bedroom, 3rd bath, because the main home only has 2 bedroom, 2 bath. Because a year ago I couldn't do that. Now that it's a single roof, their county is now taxing me on a 3rd bedroom, 3rd bath of a 500 square foot of my boathouse, not counting the water on my property.
Yeah, so that'd be a very specific question to your property. We'd have to talk to building code and see what they're going to allow there. But that's a very customized situation.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can we have a little bit more information on the cost of raising a house? And I know it's going to be very different whether it's a mobile home and manufactured home, stick home or block home.
It
and
does
how
vary
high
a
you
lot.
have to go and what kind of soil you have.
If you guys are on a slab house,
Yeah.
it's between 118 and 123 depending on the property. The concrete we have to cut, whole different scenario of everything.
Doesn't
It's
go by
about
square
118 to
footage?
123 per square foot.
And that's the square foot of the third
The
area?
living property and the garage, if you have a garage to go up.
Okay.
But when you put the garage up, now your garage becomes living space,
So Greg,
which
But
gives
if
added
if
value
there's
to
a
your house.
partial second story?
Doesn't matter, it all goes up on the footprint of the house is what our square footage is. Yeah, if you have a two-story and you have 4,000 square feet and it's a square house, only 2,000 of it gets counted as part of it.
Greg,
How about a
Greg, the one on
manufactured
Harbor
home
Drive,
or
do you know how much that one was?
Wait, let's
I-
just stick
I
with her
can-
question, and then we'll come back to yours. Go ahead, ma'am.
I said, how about a manufactured home or a mobile home?
It's a whole different process, I have to come out and look at it. The problem with mobile home and manufactured homes is, when they put them in, they didn't have much of a footer put underneath the homes.
Right.
For me to do it correctly, we have to lift the house up, we have to completely put a brand new footer in around the house, and then build columns up to support that house.
Right.
It's costly to do that for a mobile home.
So are we talking about the same budget or?
No, it's different. It all depends on the size of the mobile home. If you guys got those, contact me, I'll come out and I'll give you a price on them.
And
They're all
so
different.
you could say it could be cost prohibitive to do this on a mobile home.
On a mobile
You can
home?
do it, it depends on how new your mobile home is, it depends on the size of your mobile home, the whole nine yards.
Sir?
What size homes can you lift? Your 2,200 square foot is practical?
I'm doing one right now that's 5,000 square foot.
Wow. He asked what practical size there is, and they're doing one that's 5,000 to lift.
Okay.
Question, yes, ma'am?
So we have a concrete block house on a slab. What do you do with the slab? Do you cut it out and build a new floor, or do you lift the
The whole
slab?
slab pulled up out of the ground.
So it's gonna
Footer
be
and everything comes out.
It is witchcraft.
The question was about what happens to your slab if you have a slab house, and he says they lift the whole
We
thing.
lift the whole footer, slab and everything up out of the ground.
Pretty cool. Ma'am, back there?
So the insurance adjuster comes out, and all of a sudden you get a cash advance from FEMA. How does that work?
Yeah, so the cash advance would not be coming from FEMA directly. So the National Flood Insurance Program is just underwritten by FEMA. They just provide all the funding. It's managed separately. That's an advance that's given on your flood claim, because generally they're all going to be large loss and they're all going to be following catastrophic events. It takes them a very long time to process the claim. They give you that advance just to get you some money to keep you going. If his final estimate, say you got a $10,000 advance, you get his estimate in 2 months, that's $100,000. Nothing changes. He goes, okay, well, we already gave you 10 grand of the $100,000, so here's 90.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So when you raise that house and the slab goes up, aesthetically, what do you do to make it look? I mean, you might have a slab that's 20, 30 years old. How does that look when you raise that?
Underneath of it,
The slab, yeah, when you raise it up.
it looks like a slab underneath the house on the ground. When it comes up, you'll
But
look at the bottom.
aesthetically, there's nothing you do to make it,
No,
no,
no.
okay.
People paint them, it's the option of the homeowner how they want to finish it. We have steel up on all that holds the slab up.
Right.
So a lot of people go in, if anybody wants to see different things, we have a Facebook, Davy Shore in Florida on Facebook. If you go look on there, you'll see houses that they painted them white, they painted them black, they really look good. So it's just the preference of the homeowner how they want to finish it out.
Okay. What was that website?
Florida, Davy Shore in Florida.
Sir, again, in back.
Yeah, one final question. So if FEMA's, for that FEMA flood, if FEMA's already given me an advance to, redo my home, but then the county, when I go get permits, whatever, to finalize everything, they determined their home went past the 50% mark. So then, of course, I gotta go back to, will the county help me go back to the insurance company to get the total loss, so that I now have the money potentially to help raise the house, or?
That's a very good question. So what you're referring to is Florida's valued policy law, where essentially in the event of a total loss, your insurance company does have to pay you the full value of your policy. Unfortunately, the National Flood Policy is a federal policy. It does not care about Florida law. You guys may have heard about the matching statute. Does not apply whatsoever to that. However, If you do have homeowners damages, like wind damages, maybe you had a tree hit the property, and we can exceed that FEMA 50 rule, well, I would then work with your permitting office to make your homeowner's policy pay out the full total loss. They don't like doing it, but that's why you hire me.
Well, yeah, because not my insurance is gonna go stupid. So my goal would be, say, if the county were to come out and says, no, you've exceeded the 50% rule, because I got a letter here right now, I just got today, that the county is saying, hey, if when you get your permits, if you exceed the 50% rule, now I gotta go back and fight with my FEMA flood insurance to get them to condemn the home, to get the full value, in order to replace the home.
Nope. So your flood insurance is only going to pay you for the direct physical loss that you experienced specifically from this flood. There will be a delta a lot of times if you are in a situation where you have to raise your home. So again, if you only have $100,000 of flood damages, and that $100,000 is what's going to put you in a position where you have to raise your home, elevate it, or demo it and move, then there is no more assistance from your flood policy outside of the increased cost of compliance coverage, which is up to an extra $30,000 for doing those things.
So if the county says my home is condemned, but the insurance company says it's not, I'm kind of like out in the cold.
The insurance company actually won't care at all. At least FEMA flood will not care at all what your permitting office says outside of the amount that they're giving you, because the amount that they're determining they owe you for FEMA flood is strictly based off of, okay, you had 12,000 square feet of drywall damaged, you had 30 outlets damaged, stuff like that. The ways that you can take advantage of the total loss situation is if you also have damages that would be covered not underneath your flood policy, but underneath your homeowner's policy. So I had a client last year where, I'll give you an example of this. They did have some flood damage. They had about $150,000 of flooding. And then they also had about $200,000 of homeowners damages with citizens. And so what we ended up doing is we negotiated their homeowners claim to the point where we exceeded the FEMA 50 rule, just solely standing on the merits of the homeowners policy. And then we worked with the permitting office to get our golden ticket. It's a longer drawn out process, but the long and short, we then took that to citizens. And then you can obviously negotiate a settlement from there for the full value of the policy. And people may just be looking at their building coverage. Most of you guys are going to carry both your building coverage, you're going to have personal contents coverage, you're going to have loss of use coverage on your homeowners, and you're going to have ordinance and law coverage under your homeowners. In a valued policy situation, all of those are going to be applicable. So there's a lot of money on the table in a situation like this. It is a very complicated situation, and it is very person to person specific, and your damages are going to change what I'm able to do. That is something that we should be evaluating.
Thank you.
Ma'am, did you have a question? Sorry, yes.
It's a raising question. What is the minimum setback that you need from a retaining wall and a seawall in order for you to do your work?
Depends on where you live. For us to do the work,
Yeah.
3 feet around the house. Yeah. But now, depending on what your county says where you have setbacks, that's a different story.
If you're just lifting and matching.
If you're just lifting and matching the existing footprint of the house,
It would be,
3 feet around the house.
Okay, we have a retaining wall on the side of the house that's very close.
We'll be able to do that. That's not an issue.
Lady in the stripe shirt.
If you get an advance from your insurance company and you decide that you don't want to rebuild, do you have to give that money back? Or this is before you put in any, made a claim, but you haven't put in any.
So the question is, if you get an advance from your insurance company, but you decide, I don't want to rebuild, do you have to give that money back?
No, you do not. Yes. Yeah, not at all. And not even just the advance as well. So a lot of people, even when you get that full estimate, let's say you got a $10,000 advance, a couple months later you get that full estimate, you get another $100,000 in your pocket, great. You don't have to rebuild. A lot of times if you sell the home as is, I'll obviously disclose the situation that you're in with your insurance. I've seen people use that to pay off the mortgage and then just start fresh somewhere else, sell the land, sell the property as is. That's certainly an option to look into.
Okay. In the orange shirt, yes.
I have a question for Greg about raising the house. In a split level house, he raised.
Of course.
question is whether a split level house can be raised.
Yes, without a problem.
Excellent. Man in the white shirt.
I do it all.
You can
do it all.
Superheroes over
Got a
here.
dog house, we'll put it up for you.
Take it as high as you want to go.
High as you want to go.
Go ahead, man.
Just a lot of hearsay at the communities as far as raising the house, that there's grants that might pay 80 to 90%. But then you hear, no, it's not a grant, it's a loan. What are there options that are out there for a homeowner through, whether it's FEMA or whatever, to help?
I can tell you this. I haven't seen any money on a grant come through to raise your house.
Nope.
They all have the programs where there's 75% for FEMA grant money that you fill out the paperwork for. I haven't seen any money come for the 75%.
And that's going several years back from our
That's going,
conversation.
as far as I know, 2018.
Yeah.
We still have about 15 minutes for
I've heard
questions.
of one person doing it.
So people who have not asked a question yet, I'd rather go with you first. Go ahead. Yeah.
Piggybacking on that, so the county and local municipalities need to ask and need to work with. So if enough people in the county, you know, put the pressure on because the money is there and told the county, you know, you need to try to get us, because I know the grants are there. But I think the problem is in the disconnect is between the county and the state facilitating that through the federal government.
Oh, yeah.
I
Totally.
think that's the holdup, that's the hint.
So the webinar I sat in on that, it's about a 3-year waiting period
Yeah.
that you're going to be on. And so you're going to be out of your house or living in the construction zone for 3 years waiting on money that may or may not come, depending on if the municipality gets approved and applied for. And so I would not count on that money.
Yes, ma'am in pink headband.
Yes. I have two questions. Judy, this is for you, because you've been sitting there so patiently, and you did this for us. So my question is, I simply had like the same thing happen. I had a house on Fernleaf just 4 weeks before the hurricane, just started off complete, and then it got flooded. It's 2-story, but the bottom is flooded, the kitchen, we had to rip it all out. So in the meantime, my mom passed away, and I inherited her house on Flamingo, which got flooded for the first time forever. So my question is, you were saying no one's gonna forget about this flood. So would I be better off, do you think, like renting that house on Fernleaf until somebody forgets?
I'm not gonna say
That's definitely a specific question we can talk about. So make sure you get my information and let's talk about it. Because I want to be specific with you on that and help you find the best option for that.
And my second question is, I know all of us got that same letter today that your house is 50% over the damage limit or whatever we all got. So obviously, I know that I'm in a 2-story house, my house did not get 50% damaged. However, I got the big, you have to have a building permit to put that drywall back in. Now, I'm a little bit in a quandary because I know that you're not supposed to have anything built on that first floor. So if I get a building permit and they come in and they say like, oh, well, you can't have this bathroom down here, you can't have this.
That's right.
Do I take that chance and just be like, fix it myself and hope nobody comes out?
So I had a client contact me in a similar situation. They had a build out on the first floor that they weren't supposed to. I can't even remember which city it was, but the municipality did make them rip everything out. Yeah, because if it went in and it's not supposed to be there, then it wasn't permitted, and they don't like that, so they're forced to
Is yours
pull it out.
supposed to be there?
Well, I just moved, I mean, I don't know, I just got the house. I bought it that way, so I don't know.
And so it should have been, and that's real estate, but they should have disclosed, but somebody could have done it 3 owners ago and you don't know. So it just because you didn't know about it when you bought it doesn't negate the fact that you may have to correct it.
I should just fix it myself.
I would never lie to the government.
Oh, I lie to us every day. Alright, thank you.
Because I'm being recorded. The government's watching right now.
Okay, we have just a little bit more questions. Go ahead, sir.
Ordinance of law on my homeowner's side, can you delve into that? That may pay for, I'm definitely over the 50%.
Okay,
And
so
so they definitely shorted me about 80,000 on my flood limit versus what they cut me a check for. So, and because I gotta tear it down, I can't fix it. The ordinance of law side should pay theoretically some of the extra that I'm short to get to a new build?
Yeah, so the question is, he's about $80,000 shy on his flood insurance, but he has ordinance and law through his homeowner's insurance. Can he take advantage of that? Now, unfortunately, in order for us to open the door for homeowners, we have to first have something that homeowners is on the hook for. So homeowners does not cover flooding. So if the only reason we need to access that ordinance and law is a flood reason, then we can't touch that room. But if we also have some wind damages, maybe we had some ceiling leaks, there are some policies that cover wind-driven rain. There are ways to negotiate some of that, although it's going to be a very case-by-case and sometimes a policy basis.
Brad, is it worth an inspection
Anybody
to
got
see
any
if there's
appliances that got wet, you wanna try them out at my house and see if they'll work?
Free test report.
It is always worth a free inspection to see. I mean, yeah.
Just for more information is better. Man in the white sweater. Yes?
I went up the street here and they had a building permit, apartment there, and I asked if you had to have a permit to put it in your drywall, and the gentleman told me no.
4 feet.
Not correct.
4 feet, yeah.
Okay, so in reality, you're supposed to have these permits for your drywall, and it depends on the municipality or jurisdiction. So I've had somebody come back, I think it was Plant City, said 32 square feet. Most of you that have drywall repaired or removed has been a lot of drywall. Now, some municipalities have relaxed the permit for the drywall, but it's a case-by-case basis. I'm trying to remember which county it was that I saw. I had posted on this website.
I saw that.
Yeah, it was Hillsborough County, I think I was talking to, that they were allowing some of it. But the likelihood that you have more than just drywall to be repaired, like an exterior door, for example, you still have to have a permit for that. You still have to go through the permitting process. So just trying to get your drywall back is one thing, but if it affected other elements of your house, like electrical, you may have to do a partial rewire, there's other things you may have to do, it's gonna require a permit. And be careful. In these disclosures, when you're disclosing that this was repaired, they're gonna ask, was a licensed contractor used? Was a permit pulled for this? And all of a sudden now you're selling a house that had unlicensed work and activity into it, and it could affect the value of your house. It one day could affect the insurability of your house, because I can see insurance companies going one day to say, hey, did you use licensed contractors when you did this? Oh, you had a fire due to an electrical issue and you didn't use a licensed contractor? We might not pay now. So that's not here yet that I'm aware of, but it's a possibility. So you gotta pull your permits.
Let me ask you to address something.
Sure.
I want you to address the electrical to everybody here because of the water that went in and what needed to be done with the houses and the water.
Okay, so I'm not a licensed electrician, I'm going to disclose that. What I have seen so far, though, it depends on the type of wiring is one thing we look at. So some of you have cloth wiring. That cloth wiring exposed to salt water is dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. Same thing with aluminum. That's a complete rewire of your house. That's a complete upgrade of your panel. Now, Brad will tell you here, if it wasn't directly touched, if your panel wasn't touched by that flood water, then they will not pay to replace your panel, although you will have to replace your panel, according to code, and you won't have coverage on that. It gets very complex. If you have newer Romex, I've had most electricians come out, they'll double check the panel, make sure everything's okay, and they recommend a wipe down of the wires and replacing of all the receptacles. So really, every single situation I come into this, I say, hey, use your licensed professionals. You wouldn't want somebody unlicensed lifting your house. You want his company because it's licensed. You don't want a GC working in your house that's not licensed. It's the same thing. If you have an electrician come and evaluate, and you can do this on your own, call a licensed electrician and say, hey, my home was flooded. The water got into the outlets. I need you to come out and do an evaluation to make sure it's okay.
Yeah, please do not leave the outlets and plug stuff in, and I hope that if you think they're dry and 2 months down the road, please don't.
We had one house they left. We had one house that was flooding. The only reason they forgot to turn their power off, the only reason their house didn't burn down is because the flood water rushed in so fast to put out the fire, and the power got cut out. There are scorch marks on the walls on the outlets from the flood water coming up. So this salt water is corrosive. I mean, it's a nasty, nasty thing. It hits copper, it hits other metals, it starts corroding them. Those corrosions might not be prevalent right away. You could be sleeping 3 weeks later, and it could be a possibility of your house burning down.
Thank you.
So if you have cement board or Duraboard, Durock, what's the situation, you don't need a permit for that, right?
Saltwater's still.
No, I would say you need to remove and replace that. It's still permeable. Okay, that means all that nasty water, it's not just salt water, it's sewage, it's bacterial. Have you heard about the people swimming in the bay getting these bacterial infections right now? That kind of stuff. Yeah, you have to use proper remediation, which is usually up to 4 feet up in the house to remediate that, or what is it, a foot from the actual flood line. Yeah, so,
18 inches.
yeah, 18 inches, sorry. So you want to follow those proper protocols and get that replaced. Otherwise, you have no idea what kind of nasty microbes are growing in the house.
Yes, ma'am.
So can you explain the repetitive loss, you know, I mean, how they look at that? I mean, I understand the 49%, you know, on repair costs, on permanent stuff, but repetitive loss, you have lost prior, it's the 10 years, and then saying,
The question is about the repetitive loss policy and how
As
to
far
explain
as,
that.
as far as I'm aware, that only really comes into play into eligibility of taking advantage of the increased cost of compliance credit. That extra $30,000 for floodproofing a commercial property, raising the structure, elevating the structure, or demoing the structure and moving somewhere else.
so if you, but it, and they have it like 20, like the thing I got here, and I don't even know if it's true anymore. But within 10 years, if it's equal or exceeds 25% of the market value at the time of each flood, and what are they determining as market value? I mean, like, do I get an appraisal and determine the market value from that, or am I using the market value that the county has, which is minimal, because I bought the house 20 years ago?
Correct. It's usually going to be what the county has. I will say I've never seen anybody not be eligible for that credit that wants to take advantage of it. It's usually very, very
Well, I
low.
don't really want.
Yeah, most people don't. Yeah.
And like blue shirt?
That $30,000 credit, is it only applicable to people that are over the 50%?
Yes, it's over the 50% or in a repetitive loss situation, who also carry the National Flood Insurance policy.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware. Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, so that might be a good thing. Okay. I've never seen anyone not.
I'm just making sure that anybody that didn't ask a question yet is able to ask theirs. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Greg.
No, you get the 30 on top of it, an additional limit.
Okay.
It looks like your process takes a while. What happens if you go ahead and fix the inside of your house and then jack it?
That's perfectly fine. It's not an issue.
I just don't want to mess
And
up.
when we
what
jack
you
the
do.
houses up, most of the houses we jack up that are not storm driven are already remodeled.
Okay.
You leave the pictures on the wall, the dishes in the cupboard.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
People
it's
don't hear that.
it's not vibration, it's hydraulic. So when
Yeah.
it comes up,
It's
the
actually
house
voodoo
doesn't even know
magic.
it's coming up. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So in theory, then, that would mean that really you'd only have to be out of the house for 2.5 months if you had it livable now.
2.5 months while I'm lifting it,
Yeah.
and then whatever it takes for you to get your steps and decks to pass code to get back in the house.
But obviously, if your
Correct.
house is livable, you can be doing the permitting and the engineering during that time.
Correct.
Could you do that tomorrow?
More questions? Yes, ma'am.
I wish.
So, the question is, drywall, you're getting a permit. If you're under 2 foot, do you have to have a permit?
Again, that's going to depend on the municipality. So under 2 foot is subjective because it's under 2 foot of a flood cut, that's fine, but that's the entire perimeter of your house. Now that's hundreds of square feet of drywall. And so, like I said, some of the municipalities are relaxed on that permitting, but if this was a non-relaxed situation, most of the time you have to have permitting for that. But it's very specific to your municipality because you could be an incorporated city, unincorporated city, it just varies.
So where Fernando County says 2 feet and under, you don't need a permit, is that correct, or is that?
I don't know, I'd have to verify because some of these things have changed literally in the just last few weeks. Before we go forward with any repairs, we check on the requirements of the permit.
It had said 2 feet and under, I saw that too, but you have to verify.
But you have to verify, and then just because drywall is not permitted doesn't mean the other items in your house might be required to be permitted. Especially if you're touching any exterior elements, say you replace your front door because it was damaged, that still requires a permit. Certain municipalities require permits for your kitchen and bathrooms to be reinstalled, some don't. So it just kind of depends on your individual circumstance. But if anything, I just stress, get your permit, use a professional. It's going to help you with your resale value. To say that you are, yeah.
We are using a professional and licensed.
Yeah.
But we we're told that we don't have to have a permit, then I'm hearing all these stories that we have.
Well, your contractor should know.
So if it's a licensed contractor, they should know that, but you can always call your local building
Yeah,
department
but
and
we
ask.
thought it said 2 feet and under, but then, you know.
Okay.
You talk to Hernando County and today it's one thing and 10 minutes later they call you back and it's a different story.
Unfortunately, that is true. That's what every county and every municipality, so we don't even have to pick on Hernando. They all suck like that. Yeah.
One more quick question. The man in the back has not asked one yet, so go ahead.
Considering the backlog of that, your time frame that you're out, so I had like 4.5 foot of water in the house. My point is, at this point in time, would I put the drywall back while I'm waiting to lift the house, or is it better not to do that?
No, put everything back together again.
Put it back together.
Yeah. Not a problem.
No, it wasn't a problem with that, I'm just trying to get the time frame. We have another flood.
Oh, you have another flood? Oh, yeah, you could have another one next week, we got a storm coming.
Right.
So, you know.
Thanks, Greg.
I'm just, hey, you know, it's there.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a couple questions that they didn't touch on, and we're state certified general roofing and swimming pool contractors, and I've been in a lot of homes over here. I have pretty much walked away from most of them because you guys gotta realize, as a licensed contractor, if you guys are not gonna do it right, I can't take on that liability.
Amen.
So I'm not even gonna bid it. When you're not getting a bid back from your contractor, it may be because you don't want to tear up all your flooring and it needs to be tore up, or you've already had somebody in there and lifted all your wires to 4 to 5 feet on the wall, but still the same boxes and outlets. No licensed contractor is gonna take on that kind of liability. And so a lot of times these homes have been renovated several times, so when you tear out the kitchen and there's no tile underneath, all that water seeped under everything. And everybody said, no, I dried it out the next day. Well, as a contractor, I'm not gonna take that liability, that it's dry because you say you don't wanna replace it. So you guys gotta also think about that. And these contractors going out there, they're estimating these jobs, and they're all free estimates.
Yes.
So we're not gonna give you a line by line if you're gonna dictate to us what you wanna do by code and what you don't wanna do by code. And so just keep that in mind for the contractors when you're going out there. And I am retired from the building department, not this building department, but you do need permits. And by the way, if you're to tear down and rebuild, another point I'd like to let you know, there is a new Florida statute that if you go in for a residential home and you submit all your paperwork, your plans, your engineering, surveys, everything's in there, the building department only has 30 days to get your permit to you for residential home. For comments, that's right. So, you know, that's something for the people that are gonna rebuild completely. They have 30 days to review it, but obviously, like he said, you've got to get an engineer, got to get an architect, you got to get all that stuff submitted to them. But what I'm finding is I'm going in because they've been hit. It's a unique situation. These lots are very small. They're 5,000 to 9,000 square feet that I've been on. And the people want to live in a camper in the front yard, and some of them have already put all brand new pavers down. Brand new pavers down, but they haven't done anything in the house. That doesn't help us as a contractor. Now we gotta worry about protecting all that money you spent while we do the inside because you did it backwards. So, you know, just keep that in mind.
Well, I know that Brad and Greg and Tommy and Jonathan and Judy are gonna stay after to answer any other questions you have. And again, if you registered, you will get an email with all of their information, because I know you guys have a lot of very specific questions. But let's thank them for their knowledge and their
Well,